It's gone. Super Heavy Booster 10 loses its hot staging ring. Is it a bad sign? New tanks arrive at Starbase. Can they hook them up before the launch? Another private mission to the International Space Station. Do you know the details? And the Peregrine lander is still alive. Will it crash into the moon? My name is Felix. Welcome to What About It? Let's dive right in. Starship updates. Wow, another busy week at Starbase. It's been only 2 months since the last launch and we are very likely less than a month from the next one. Can you believe it? Talking about a hot winter. At SpaceX, engineers are working day and night to prepare Booster 10 and Ship 28 for flight. The intent is clear. As of now, these prototypes are still waiting at the production site. Ship 28 is currently in the high bay, where it's undergoing final touches, including the installation of a few remaining tiles in the nose cone area. Meanwhile, Booster 10 is chilling in the first megabay. Notably, on January 15th, the teams removed its hot staging ring, transporting it to an unknown location. However, this shouldn't be a cause for alarm. You probably recall that during the previous test campaign, the hot staging ring was removed and reinstalled multiple times. At worst, this might indicate that the ring itself has to undergo some modifications. At best, SpaceX might be upgrading to a newer, improved hot staging design for Booster 10. Once all necessary work is completed, both vehicles will make their way back to the launch site for stacking. Following this, we anticipate a wet dress rehearsal to simulate flight-like conditions. If all goes well, the next step will be to just send it. I'd say if we see a fully stacked Starship by the end of the first week of February, it's plausible that the launch will happen by the end of that month. So I'm definitely on Team February launch. What are your predictions for the third flight? Will Starship successfully reach orbit, or are we looking at another rapid unscheduled disassembly? Share your thoughts in the comments. While getting the Starship ready is important currently, the main focus of Starbase's engineering team is likely on something different. I am talking, of course, about the orbital tank farm. In our last update, a barge transporting 2 cryogenic tanks was en route to the port of Brownsville. Our latest flyover, made possible thanks to Redline helicopter tours, enabled us to see what happened next. Our incredibly talented photographer John was able to capture not only a newly delivered tank at the site, but also another one being offloaded from the transport ship. With 8 new tanks now at the launch site and only 1 pedestal remaining to be filled, we're close to the completion of this phase of the expansion. The weather conditions were perfect during this flyover, allowing us to capture some truly stunning shots. Arguably, that might have been our best flyover to date. Great visibility allowed us to see progress on the horizontal tanks. Work platforms have been erected around 3 of these tanks, with more expected to be set up shortly. We also noticed sections of piping that will link the various components of the farm, as well as pipes already extending towards the older part of the farm. It is happening! On the other side, an excavator was seen destroying the concrete base of the recently dismantled GSE-8 tank. This spot is likely where the new vaporizers will be installed. You can actually see them waiting right next to the new tanks. Okay, Felix, but what exactly is a vaporizer? Great question. Vaporizers are relatively simple yet very important devices. They operate somewhat like a reverse CPU cooler. No joke, they don't dissipate the heat from the source, but instead collect the heat from the outside and transfer it to the source. Their function is to warm up cryogenic liquids, turning them into gas. This process involves the liquid flowing through long, winding, finned tubes which substantially increase the surface area for heat transfer. In simple terms, you attach, for example, liquid nitrogen to it and you get gaseous nitrogen on the other side. Not too complicated, right? A vaporizer setup can then be used to pressurize the tanks in the tank farm, which in turn ensures that the Starship can be fueled safely without the risk of damaging the tanks. You could, in theory, also just wait for the liquid to vaporize, but sometimes that would just take too long. That is when the vaporizers are needed. While a similar system already exists at Massey's, the one at Starbase is expected to be much larger, as they just use so much more liquid oxygen, methane and nitrogen here. Shifting focus to the orbital launch table, it is clear that the coastal climate isn't ideal for metal constructions. Just look at it, it is so rusty. I recently had a question in the comments if the deluge plate would rust over time. Simple answer, everything here made from steel rusts over time. The salty breeze is like steroids for corrosion. By taking a closer look from the air, we can see the hold-down clamps that secure the prototypes during testing and release just before launch. Interestingly, 2 of these clamps are covered with blue tarp, and some are chained to the deck's top, which probably was done to secure them during maintenance. Moving behind the tower, we have yet another mystery to solve. This time it's this little area right next to the water system where workers have recently erected a temporary wall in the parking lot area and laid fresh concrete. What is this? Embedded within this concrete are several reinforced square cutouts. Their purpose is currently unclear, and the fact that they aren't symmetrical doesn't help. These could potentially be the foundations for some sort of new structure, but what exactly it will be remains a speculation. Could this be the site for a water tower, or perhaps something related to a second orbital launch integration tower? There are countless possibilities. Be sure to leave your predictions in the comments. I love reading them. Also, how about you go see all of this for yourself? Book your own ride at Starbase and see these things in person, or just enjoy one of the most incredible views in the world. Go to redlineheli.com/Felix. You'll find the link in the description as well. I promise you won't ever forget this. Going to the production site, there's a constant buzz of activity no matter where you look. Let's revisit the Mega Bay, which was already mentioned today when we were talking about Booster 10, but have you been keeping an eye on Booster 13? It's a bit hard, but we managed to snap some pictures. This prototype's construction began in September 2023, and its pace has been notably slower than what we've typically seen from SpaceX. After completing its liquid oxygen tank, there was a period where it seemed like nothing was happening. That is a bit unusual. However, on January 15th, something finally changed. The forward dome of Booster 13 was mated with a 3-ring tall barrel, marking the beginning of the methane tank's construction. The reason behind the slower pace for Booster 13 isn't entirely clear, but it might be a decision by SpaceX to avoid pumping out multiple prototypes that won't get much use. After all, the current Super Heavy design is still in the proving phase, so it may have a critical design flaw that's only going to show during, for example, a soft water landing. It might also be that Booster 13 didn't see much progress because insights from IFT2 resulted in a changed design. The time frame would fit perfectly. Let's see what else is there to find. Ship 26, for instance, has been moved to the Raptor installation stand. This prototype is a total enigma, particularly with its unusual number of stringers. Its relocation could imply that its Raptors are being removed, perhaps indicating that it will be finally scrapped. However, we've seen such signals before, and Ship 26 is still standing strong, so its fate is still up in the air. Meanwhile, over at the Star Factory, it's been mere days since the last production tent was taken down, and the concrete is already being cleared away for the Star Factory's foundation. Roof panels are also being added to the existing sections, and the pace of construction appears to be accelerating. I sure can't wait to see the whole thing. The residential area just behind the factory is rapidly evolving into a small town, with new houses and smaller barrack-style buildings emerging everywhere. Living here must be a dream come true, especially with Starship being the first thing you see every morning. Life at Starbase may soon become even more appealing with the addition of 2 new large buildings planned to be built between Massey's and the production site. The first of these is a restaurant, set to cover an area of 325 square meters or about 3,500 square feet. It is expected to be open to the general public, making it a convenient dining spot for visitors and those who actually live in Boca Chica. The second project is a multi-purpose building that will house a grocery store, retail shops, and a cafe. Both these buildings are anticipated to be situated within 6.5 kilometers or 4 miles of the production site. Even in the worst case, that should be within a safe distance to reach a toilet in time. It is a real problem down there. It is exciting to see Starbase being more accessible. Currently, it's not that tourist-friendly and requires some preparation before you get there. This will change soon. As we're already in the area, let's focus on what's to become the new primary site for static fire tests. Welcome to Massey's. The first thing that catches the attention here is Booster 12, which rolled out in December. Starting on January 10th, it underwent a cryogenic test of its methane tank, followed by a combined cryo test of both its tanks 2 days later. This mirrors the testing pattern we observed with Booster 11 in October, suggesting that Booster 12 will return to the mega base soon for engine installation. As expected, a few meters next to this prototype, foundations have been laid for additional LOX tanks at the site. It appears that we'll be seeing 3 such tanks, with one possibly already stationed at SpaceX's new storage facility. Meanwhile, significant progress is being made to prepare the site for Raptor testing. 2 methane tanks have been recently placed on their concrete bases. Upon closer inspection, you'll also notice that 2 pumps have been installed right next to these tanks. Massey's is growing, but it's unclear when exactly we'll see the first static fire here. Will it occur before Starship's 4th launch, or will we have to wait until summer? Place your bets in the comments. Now here is a little task for you before we continue with the news. YouTube may have unsubscribed you without your knowledge. This has happened to thousands of Y viewers, and they seem to do this frequently. Please double check that you've hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss our updates. While checking, hit the like button and consider becoming a Y supporter for exclusive SpaceX updates. With it, you get access to daily Starbase photo galleries, now including orbital, aerial, and ground photos of SpaceX's progress, and countless other extras on top. No matter how much you decide to give, everyone gets the same supporter content and access. You decide what you want to give. Check our new website as well. Launch previews, road closures, the latest weather reports, and our multi-stream viewer, whataboutit.space. The link to our Patreon page and the new website is in the description. Thanks to all the supporters who help fulfill dreams for our team. We can't thank you enough. You rock! Privacy is important to me, especially if it's my personal data. Learn how I scrub my information from the web with today's video sponsor, Incogni. I'm used to random phone calls, emails, and other unwanted spam I have never signed up for. But thanks to Incogni, I finally get to experience some peace of mind. Not just because of the mental offload of notifications, but because of how easy Incogni made it to regain control of my privacy. Just create an account, grant access, and relax as they do all of the work. Incogni covers a range of brokers that sell data to banks, insurance agencies, and government entities, serving automated removal requests on my behalf. They deal with data brokers and secure my information from potential strangers, scammers, and identity thieves. Gain control over your privacy by joining Incogni just as I did. Use code Felix at the link below and get 60% off an annual plan. Incogni.com/Felix. Incogni, take back your personal data. Okay, back to SpaceX news. We're shifting away from Texas to Florida, home of the Crew Dragon. Back in December, when Falcon Heavy faced a launch delay, SpaceX mentioned a contingency plan. If they couldn't solve the issue in time, the first crewed Dragon mission of 2024 was supposed to be launched from the newly constructed crew tower at Slick 40. Fortunately or not, SpaceX's skilled engineers managed to revert the modifications done to LC-39A in time to allow for a Dragon launch from there in January. While the International Space Station typically hosts a few cargo and crew missions from NASA each year, this mission is a bit different. It's a fully private mission, a collaboration between SpaceX and Axiom Space, which has been conducting its own human spaceflight program since April 2022. Now, Axiom's 3rd mission is already underway, again featuring a 4-member crew. Commanding this Freedom capsule this time is Michael Lopez Alegria, a veteran NASA astronaut with an impressive track record. He has spent over 275 days in space, participating in 3 shuttle missions, 1 Soyuz launch, and the AX-1 mission. Notably, Michael also holds the record for the most extravehicular activities by an American astronaut, with 10 spacewalks on his name. Clearly, he's exceptionally qualified for this mission. Joining him as the pilot for AX-3 is Walter Villadei, an Italian military officer. Italy's Ministry of Defense sponsors his journey to space. For those of you who have been following What About It for a while, this name might ring a bell. He's already been to space thanks to Virgin Galactic's first commercial mission, Galactic 01. The flight served as a preparation for the real deal. Joining the AX-3 crew as the first mission specialist is Alper Gezerabci from Turkey. With a 21-year experience as a military pilot, he is set to become Turkey's first astronaut. The second mission specialist is Marcus Wandt from Sweden, whose journey to space is particularly interesting. In 2022, Wandt was selected for the European Space Agency 2022 astronaut group. Typically, joining such a group means a lengthy wait before reaching space, if at all. However, Axiom Space's commercial spaceflight opportunity has fast-tracked Wandt's journey. ESA secured a seat on this mission, marking the agency's first venture into commercial human spaceflight. With each crew member holding at least partial European citizenship, AX-3 is set to be the first all-European mission to the ISS. Though securing a spot aboard the station comes with a hefty price tag. Each participant is reportedly paying around $55 million for their stay, which is expected to last only about 14 days. But this mission is far more than a mere space tourism trip. The crew has undergone rigorous astronaut training and, during their time on the station, will engage in over 30 scientific experiments. These experiments are designed to study the physiological impacts of spaceflight on humans and explore potential treatments for certain cancers and neurological conditions. Basically, this research, unfeasible on Earth, has the potential to significantly improve the quality of life for millions of people. The Axiom 3 mission was slated for launch on January 17th. If all has gone according to plan, by the time you're seeing this episode, the crew should already be marveling at the breathtaking views of Earth from space. But that is not the end of news from SpaceX. Believe it or not, even after we've covered the presentation from Elon Musk, there are still new things popping up regarding Starlink. Most of you are probably familiar with how the system works. You set up a terminal and it connects with the nearest satellite, allowing you to both upload and download data from the internet. Sweet! However, this data, be it a YouTube video or a silly X post, needs to travel between the satellite and a server. How does it do that? Meet the Starlink Gateway. A gateway is a ground station built by SpaceX where several Starlink terminals link to existing fiber infrastructure, granting users access to data centers around the world. They already have numerous such stations in many countries to provide global coverage, but now they are introducing the option to install a private one. For a very low one-time fee of just $1.25 million, you can acquire your own personal gateway. But this might actually be worth it in many situations. This system, named Community Gateway, works on exactly the same principle as a normal gateway, but in reverse. Assuming you can afford it, SpaceX will install multiple terminals at your location, enabling you to distribute the signal and create a private fiber network. These terminals are heavily reinforced, having a concrete base with the dish itself encased to protect it from snow or cats. The impressive part is the network's capability, boasting up to 10 gigabits per second of throughput. However, this comes with a hefty price tag, $75,000 per gigabit per second per month. So $750,000 for 10 gigabits. Of course, this service is primarily aimed at network providers and isn't really competitive in places where fiber networks are readily available. Even dividing among 50 people, the cost would still be about $1,500 per month for just 20 megabits per second, which isn't what you'd call a high-speed internet. That said, this system could be invaluable in remote areas like islands, oil rigs, or research stations where laying fiber optic cables would be even more expensive to outright impossible. While not a practical solution for the average consumer right now, this is only the beginning, with the potential to become more affordable over time. Who knows, maybe one day every university or company will have its own Starlink gateway. To end this episode on an almost unbelievable note, let's take another look at the Peregrine lander, which is continuing to impress everyone, a true diehard. We may have vastly underestimated its willpower, because as of recording this episode, it's still going strong. The last time we mentioned Peregrine was shortly after its launch, when it encountered an anomaly. A broken valve caused helium to rush into its oxidizer tank, ultimately leading to its rupture. This incident effectively scrapped any hopes of a lunar landing mere hours after the launch. However, not all was lost. On January 11th, Astrobotic shared some good news. Successful data transmission from all 9 payloads aboard Peregrine, with the passive ones receiving power. The next day, the company predicted that the lander's fuel would be depleted within 48 hours. Here comes the plot twist. The pressure loss in the oxidizer tank eventually slowed down the leak. Despite the team trying to squeeze out everything they can from Peregrine's mission, it will end soon nonetheless. The lander is currently on a crash course with Earth, scheduled to re-enter the atmosphere in the next few days. Given its small size, Peregrine is expected to harmlessly disintegrate upon re-entry. Regrettably, this means that one of its payloads containing the cremated remains of individuals intended to rest forever on the moon will instead return to Earth. Despite this setback, let's hope that Astrobotic has gathered enough valuable data to polish their future missions. The company will have a second chance at the moonshot at the end of 2024. That's when they will attempt to land on the moon's south pole using the Griffin lander with NASA's Viper rover on board. Exciting stuff, fingers crossed. That's it for today. Remember to smash that like button, subscribe for more awesome content. This is what fuels the algorithm and helps us immensely. Check out our epic shirts in your favorite Space Nerd store. A link is in the description. And if you want to train your space IQ even further, watch this video next to continue your journey. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again in the next episode. Sufi? We're very orbital. Extravehicular. He is snoring.